Welcome to the Private Practice Startup Podcast, where we help ambitious private practitioners across the globe to brand themselves and grow their dream practices. We chat with successful private practitioners, business coaches, and marketing experts, bringing you tons of practice building ninja tips. Visit privatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and our signature marketing e-course. Here are your co-hosts, Dr. Kate Campbell and Katie Lemieux.
Hey, Startup Nation. Welcome back to another episode of the Private Practice Startup Podcast. We are super excited that you're here, and I'm excited for this podcast. I have a feeling it's going to be a little bit fun and funny, and it's going to be quite the ride. And I just want to say, if this is your first time happening on our podcast, welcome. We want to welcome you to the Startup Nation family, and for that, we have a gift for you. We don't want anything from you. We just want to give to you, and that is our A to Z cheat sheet, the essentials for building and growing your dream practice. You can head right on over to privatepracticestartup.com. Head on over to the resources tab or shimmy on over there. And there you will see, when you click on that, the A to Z cheat sheet. Go ahead and download that. And we are also going to send you 5 days of practice building emails to really support the growth and development of your practice. Before I announce today's guest and our topic, we hope that you guys joined us last week as we spoke with Misha Conway, who is a marketer, graphic designer, content creator. And it was just such a joy to speak with her. Her topic was, it's hard to sell yourself, and it is. Let a marketer do it for you. And we just loved listening to her because she really emulated a lot of things that we believe in and we teach to therapists. So go ahead and check out that podcast if you haven't already. But after this one, then go check that out. So today's guest is someone who's near and dear to our heart, and that is Dr. Andrew Dobo, or Andy as we call him, or as he's known. And Andy is actually one of our coaching alumni. So this is one of the mini episode series that we're peppering in. This will be Andy's success story, and we're really talking today about leveling up, growing into another revenue stream. And I'll let Andy kind of share his journey and things like that. But before we dive in, a little bit about Andy. He's originally educated as a composer in the 1970s, always interested in dreams and Jung, even while studying music. He discovered that Jungian idea manifests during EMDR therapy and discovered that he felt at home in the marriage of these two models. After 20 years of practicing, it seemed like a good time to teach others of what he had learned over the years, hence the development of his trainings. And that's kind of how he landed or found us. So welcome, Andy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? How are you two doing?
We are doing well. We're really excited that you're here.
You always have high energy, no matter what time of day, no matter what day of week. I don't know how you two do it, but
well, I'm glad that's your perception, because that's not always reality.
No, it's not. And the podcasts are so fun. It's just, we love this stuff, and to be able to hear so many people's stories and support Startup Nation in this way, it energizes us. It's something that we love to do. It's so special to have you on the podcast here today, because we had the opportunity to really meet you and get to know you very well through our private practice marketing coaching program. And I'd love to hear more about your journey through private practice. So tell us a little bit about that, Andy.
The private practice thing, I think I always wanted to be a private practitioner. I never wanted to do anything else. And I found that even I was a musician, so I taught piano lessons individually, one-on-one with kids. And I found that a lot of times the kids they just want to talk to me and not do the piano thing and tell me that they broke up with their boyfriend. And so I had this sort of rapport with people where they felt comfortable. So even, back in my 20s, even though I was, kind of absorbed in music, that there was still this kind of piece that this component of what really excited me was having meaningful conversations with people. And so I remember reading one of the Jungian books where Jung said it's a good idea to go make your place in the world, and then at midlife is a good time to become a therapist. So I always remembered that as a musician. Well, maybe at some point in my life, I'll be able to be a therapist. And so I always kept that in the back of my head. I didn't tell my wife. I didn't tell anybody that I might want to switch careers and do something different. But that's always kind of been this thing that sort of fascinated me.
Interesting. Is there any quote from Jung that, like, if you're already a therapist, like what you're supposed to do in midlife? I feel like that's me.
Yeah, well, here's one of my favorite quotes is like all true things change, and only that which changes remains true. So we're supposed to change, and the change is kind of our truth, and so you're not supposed to be stagnant. So, that's kind of it's difficult to change. Most of us resist change. Most of us don't like transitions in our life, but it's how we get to, continue to live our truth, I think. So I think that's a wise advice from Dr. Jung.
Share a little bit about how you came across us.
I got an email from you out of the blue. I'm not exactly sure how you found me or how I got this email, and it was about your supervision class.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always thought about taking that class, but I never, I got to take a weekend off, and so I read the email. I said I'm going to do it, and I'm not exactly sure what you said in your email that got me to sign up. So I clicked the button, and like in like 30 seconds, you had $395 of my dollars. And I said, I want to know how to take people's money so easily and quickly. So that I think maybe at that time, because I was thinking about beginning a training company to train people to do EMDR. I was just thinking about it. And I thought, well, you two are training, and I wanted to, experience your training. And I also don't and didn't understand the mechanics from when you take the money, how do you get through the training, how do you get CEUs, all that stuff, right? Or how to really market a company. I had a company, real estate company, when I was younger, where we flipped houses and things, but that was way before the digital age, So all of that stuff. So that was really the thing that, that was the thing that intrigued me about going to your course, to see if I could, learn from you, and how exactly do you get a course up and running?
That was
how do you do it? Go ahead.
That was the introduction to us, the Florida Qualified Supervisor Training, and you took that course with us, and that's where we really formed a relationship with you, and you went on to continue into the private practice marketing coaching program. You had a successful private practice, but you wanted to scale and grow and expand into a new area by offering your expertise with the EMDR trainings across the state of Florida. And tell us a little bit.
I was sort of an outlier in that I already had a successful practice, and I didn't want to be a supervisor. But I did want to know what's the difference between a supervisor and a consultant, because I'm an EMDR consultant, and I wanted to be clear about those boundaries. So I went to the course with maybe a different agenda than most people, but it was still an important course for me to take.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm curious as to how you were able to be successful in your private practice, and then for you, kind of what stopped you from saying, "Oh, this is what I've learned on how to build a business. Why not transition it over here?"
How did I build this private practice? I think slowly. Really, because when I graduated in '98, we weren't really even supposed to have our name in the phone book. Like, marketing was something that you just worked through insurance companies, and you kind of kept yourself. You didn't want people to know where you lived. It was a whole different world at that time. And so I think what really started to accelerate my practice was this EMDR thing. I had been doing EMDR even in graduate school since 1998, and I got trained officially through Shapiro in the early 2000s when I started my private practice. And then word kind of got out because EMDR is pretty effective. People get better faster. They don't have to do a lot of talking, and it's effective, efficient, and a lot of word of mouth was happening and I was one of the few people doing it at that time. So the EMDR had a lot to do with my success, not so much any marketing skills. What I did, we went and introduced ourselves, because I'm here with two other folks, to the physicians in the area. And they're happy to know that there's someone in town to send people that are having anxiety and depression. And so that was also, I think, something that anyone can do, and doesn't require a lot of money, and that you can get referrals. And so we still continue to get referrals from those folks.
Nice.
That's about it. It was a different world back then, really.
Yeah.
There was
what
no
a long
podcasts or,
And it sounds like that's been a long-term referral relationship and that's gone really well. So, but it also sounds like at the time is you were really niched out as the specialist offering this modality that really no one was offering.
Yeah, and at the time, early in your career, we tried different things. I was trying to become an effective couples therapist, doing Gottman and EFT, doing all those trainings, and I just kind of realized how much I hate working with couples, and why am I doing this to myself? And EMDR is this thing that always was kind of working for me. And so I think early in your career, you're looking for your niche, and maybe you already have it and don't know it. Right. So
Good
I think
point.
I always had it, but didn't know it. I'm trying to do this. I need to know this. I need to know this. And that's not the case. But I think maybe young therapists, they always are exploring. When they come to my trainings, they just finished a DBT training, and then they're going to do hypnosis training, and they're doing EMDR. And I'm like, okay. Again, I think young therapists have to try out different things until they sort of find the thing that fits for them.
Yeah.
So finding your niche is a whole nother program, I guess. We'll talk maybe another time.
That's part of the e-course in the coaching program.
Okay.
Helping you really find your niche. But, people come to us in many different places like you were. And that's why one of the things we wanted to highlight your story. But before we continue, let's just take a quick break for our sponsor. Would you love to work with an accounting firm that specializes in working with mental health professionals, whether it be a solo or group practice, one that can handle all of your accounting needs like budgeting, bookkeeping, payroll, setting up QuickBooks, and tracking KPIs? If so, you should definitely check out Green Oak Accounting. On top of all of that they do, they can help you set up and stay on track with your profit first system. Check them out at greenoakaccounting.com/PPS as in private practice startup, and get their free accounting checklist for private practice startups, as well as lots of financial tips and tricks just for private practice owners. You'll also want to check out episode 169, where we had the pleasure of talking to the owner, Julie Harris, on what key performance indicators you should be tracking to have a successful private practice. Again, don't forget to check them out at greenoakaccounting.com/PPS.
There are so many ways to keep your practice organized, but Therapy Notes is by far the best. Their easy to use, secure platform lets you not only do billing, scheduling, and progress notes, but also create a client portal to share documents and request signatures. Plus, they offer amazing unlimited phone support. So when you have a question, they're there so you can get help fast. Get started with Therapy Notes today, trusted by over 60,000 professionals. Go to therapynotes.com and enter promo code PPS, as in private practice startup, and you'll get 2 months for free. Also, you can listen to episode 54, where we interviewed Brad Pleiner and took an in-depth view into their EHR.
Andy, you were one of, I can't remember if you were our first group coaching, or did we have one before Andy Kate? I don't remember. I know it was before we actually created the e-course. So we had been doing a lot of one-on-one coaching, right? And beginning to test and measure our process and understanding and, getting feedback from the alumni and continuing to tweak. And then we had you and another female with us, and it was just the two of you, and you are our group.
Right.
So share with us what you
got. Right, and you had in that course you had offered a discount, and you had to register by this certain time or something, and it was the training. I think it was maybe in October, I don't know, where you weren't there, Kate. You had your sister was having a baby or something, and so you weren't present, but you phoned in or FaceTimed in and met us all. But Katie did that her training herself. So I don't know if that helps you in your timeline.
It does. Yeah, so that was over 2 years ago that training was, because your niece is going to be 2 shortly, right, Kate?
Yes, she'll be 2 in December. Exactly. It was probably September over 2 years ago.
Right.
Yeah. So in the actual coaching though, what was it that you gained, and what helped you really launch your EMDR practice or your EMDR trainings?
Well, the thing that was the catalyst is I tend to have like a 12 to 15 year cycle, and then I have to do something different, or I get bored, and I don't want to be bored as a therapist, right? And I've just known that about about me, and I started to sort of sense that. And then I was invited to help a friend of mine do a training, and I had never helped with a training before, an EMDR training. And then, because when you're sitting in your office, you think that all therapists know what you know. And I went to this training, I realized that I know a lot, and I didn't realize I knew a lot. I just thought everybody knew what I knew. So that was kind of an eye opener. And I watched a training. Well, I could do this, and I would love to do this. So that invite to that training sort of opened up my eyes to say, well, let me get started and do this. And so then that sort of was the beginning of, me putting together a little weekend program. And then I tried it out at Florida Tech where I worked, and that worked out well. And it's kind of just been growing ever since. So the catalyst was in that invite. That sort of serendipitous invite where I was, the person was desperate and for somebody, for an approved consultant, and I happened to be one in the area of the training. So that was a catalyst. And did you have another question in there in that?
Yeah. With our coaching program. So you decided, you knew that was a catalyst to get into the EMDR scaling and leveling up into a different revenue stream because you've already been successful in private practice. And then you found us and you said, I got to know how you take my money so easily, right? Like that was the catalyst to say, I got to work with these girls. And what did you learn during our coaching process that was really helpful for you?
Well, I knew nothing about marketing. So, and I mark, I'm one like you critiqued my website. It was like embarrassing how terrible it was. You were nice about it, but
I'm glad you threw that in there because I was like, oh, people listening to this is like a painful process.
So, just to pinpoint one thing, it's like everything. I mean, I didn't know even how do you market a training? How do you get emails from people? All of those kind of things. In terms of the mission and vision that we did together, I mean, that was kind of, I've always had a mission statement, even before I started this. I always had this sort of mission. But then, going through the culture and what do I, and the culture, going through those processes, I think are important in that, you may know this stuff about you, but then to actually write and think about each one of the components of your culture and define it so that someone can read it and see it and have an understanding maybe of who you are and what you're about and why your training it may be not better than somebody else's, but it certainly is different. And I'm not sure, I think you guys recommended one of the books, and I don't remember who said this, but like people don't buy what's the best. They just buy what they understand. And so that's an important thing to remember. So I would think, well, geez, that guy's been doing EMDR for 50 years and so what? It doesn't matter. You just want to have a message that people understand. So a lot of what the work that we did, was, like you could look at concrete things like my logo, like how do you do a logo, where to get a logo. And, you guys recommended this 99 Designs, and I love that process. I love my logo. It's perfect. Just that's kind of a concrete thing, which I would have no idea how to go, where to go to Staples or something and have them do kind of a crappy idea of, so, they're just like, I knew nothing and you guys are experts. So I was really fortunate. And then I'm so glad we got to be friends too, not just, somebody that I did a course with. It's kind of more than that with you guys. Yeah,
it's amazing that it's basically 2 years ago that we went through this process, and that was when we first launched the group coaching, and you were a part of the first cohort where it was just you and another coachee as we were really perfecting and honing in on all of the step-by-step system that we teach in terms of the branding and the marketing and all of the formulas and whatnot. And you guys have continued to get really great success with that, which is so cool to see. And you're right. It is so neat to be able to develop these friendships with our coachees because we really care about you guys and want you to be super successful in reaching your goals and really helping as many people as possible in whatever way that looks like. So it's really cool to stay connected over the long haul and really see how you guys continue to grow. So when you think back about the different areas that you worked on in your business in terms of the branding piece that you're talking about with the vision, mission, and culture and getting clear on your marketing strategy and how to create lead magnets to, to get people's email addresses, and your whole funnel for marketing in terms of hosting your EMDR trainings across the state of Florida. Tell us a little bit about how that has impacted your training business.
Well, I would say that there are growing pains in that process, because I didn't exactly know where to get people to help me with the marketing, because you guys just explain what you need and you have resources, but in the end I need to hire somebody to do my marketing or hire somebody to build my website, and you make some recommendations. And some of those folks that I stumbled upon were not effective, and I had to restart all over again. And so that's just kind of business. You learn from your mistakes. I'm sure you guys have done things that
Totally.
You've learned. I think when I met you, I don't know, but I think you said you've been working on this for 5 years or something. It's been kind of this, a slow process, or I'm not exactly sure, but I just sort of remember some conversation about took us 5 years to get to this place or something, because it doesn't happen overnight. And so the mistakes, I think, are just kind of part of learning. So I think I've kind of stumbled upon a really good marketing person that I work with. I trust. I'm getting good results. You get my website's a bit complicated because for EMDR folks, there's a lot of requirements required for them to just register. They have to agree to a lot of things, like they have to agree to do real work, and all that stuff has to be on the website. They have to, check all the boxes before. And then before they even, think about giving me any money. So I needed somebody with that sort of expertise in terms of the technological stuff. So it took me a little while to find the person, and and I'm pretty pleased now. But that was a bit of a process, because I don't do a lot of that.
Yeah, and we don't, tech is not our favorite thing. We do a decent amount of it, Kate more than me, because we have an online business, and so being able to navigate that. But you're right, with growing pains, we just recently switched. We were just utilizing one platform for evergreen webinars, and we completely switched. So that is part of the process, and I'm glad that you shared that. But you're right. So we taught you the foundation of the marketing. And one of my favorite things was, I don't know if it was in the course or shortly after, but you had sent an email, I think, to a college or university, and you followed the marketing formula. Right. And, before your marketing message looked like this, and then it was like this, and they asked you to come speak or something like that. And I love that.
Yeah, no, it was the pain points. I didn't have any pain points, so I used some pain points, and then how to resolve the pain points. And so I think I had one or two students that was interested, and then there ended up being 12. I'm just from that email. So
That's
those
awesome.
Marketing strategies, they work. So.
And
you took my course.
I did, and I was going to talk a little bit about that. I'll talk about that now. So one of the things, like you said, is we've become good friends, and, everything comes full circle. And I decided to do your EMDR course earlier this year in 2019. And one of my proudest moments was walking into your office and seeing all of your marketing materials with your vision statement, and how everything was very consistent and branded. And that was very exciting for me. Probably no one else at the training, because they're not really looking at that, but I was super excited. So I would love for you to share your vision statement.
Well, what I'd rather, my vision statement, I've sort of shortened it, and it's just my vision is to teach, help, and heal. So that's not exactly how you guys kind of we worked it out on my website. But when I think of me and my vision in my life and in my work and with my family, it's just to teach, help, and heal. And that's kind of what I do.
Yeah, and it's beautiful, and it's very succinct and clear. And, it's interesting. I remember when we were going through the vision statement process, and I know creating my own, and Kate and I creating ours and things like that, is you have to do all that inside work first to really get clear, and then simplify, cut down, simplify. And that's like a hard part, right? But when it's there, it's like you feel it, it, it feels good, it looks good, and you can just share it. And it's so much more exciting than, well, what do you do? Well, I'm a therapist and I teach EMDR. Okay, well, what is that? No, right. I teach, help, and heal. Cool. Tell me more. You know what I mean? So that was
and then there's also things that we talked about it, and I think it was the Semic guy, the what's your why?
Mm-hmm. Simon Sinek, yes.
Right. So it's not and I wouldn't know any of these people, these books, if I didn't teach. I would never have gone to the marketing section of a bookstore. But anyway, that's a brilliant book. Lead with Why, I think it's called.
Start with why.
Start with why, right? And so my why is to transform lives. Right. So that's a little different than a mission and a vision. And it's on my banner too. And I think I'm either transforming the therapist's life to be an EMDR therapist, and EMDR certainly transforms my clients' lives. And it doesn't just, get rid of symptoms. It really does transform their whole view of the world. So I think that sort of is a very powerful thing to define your why.
And how cool to be able to transform so many lives, because it goes beyond, that ripple effect goes beyond the training that you do with your therapists that come to the courses that you're teaching. It impacts the clients' lives that they're all teaching, or that they're all helping to heal through the EMDR that they're providing, through their families, it just goes on and on. So you have a greater reach to really expand that impact now that you've stepped into this new level of being able to transform lives.
And I
agree. And it is really taking all this culture, all of my life's work, and then this is just kind of it in 3 words.
Yeah, and that's the crazy process.
Right. And that's marketing also. It's creative, it's marketing. Yeah. I remember after taking your course that I would watch commercials and I'm like, well, what's their why? I don't see a why in that. How can they even who did this terrible commercial? So I started to look at commercials and things with, a more discerning eye. So I learned a lot from those 6 hours I spent with you guys.
It's funny that you say that, because I've been getting a lot of commercials on YouTube for, I guess there's this bike, and then they take you like all over the world. And what I realized in the marketing is they mention nothing about fitness. Like they talk about exploring the world, and they show you the places, and you're following this person on your bike, and and it was just like, wow, like that's cool. Like they reference nothing about their product. And that is, and I remember you saying that, and that was like a fun little exercise, is start watching the commercials for the pain points and the desires, because there's times that they really don't even talk about their product or service. They really just engage you on that emotional level. And what we know is, as humans, even though we think we buy for facts and figures and analytics, that's BS, right? Is we do often buy on emotion first. We might run our numbers and things like that, but that's the predominant one.
Andy, I'm curious, how many EMDR trainings have you had since you finished the coaching with us?
I don't know. I try to do 1 a month, and I've been able to do that. Last January, I did like 3 in a month, because the FIT students asked me to do a week before they went back to school, which I wasn't planning on doing. But pretty much I do 1 or 2 a month, and I'm scheduled in January to do one in Melbourne, and I'm going to be in Jacksonville in February, I think. And I already almost have that one's almost full, because people don't go to Jacksonville very often, I guess, EMDR trainers. So yeah, pretty much 1 5-day, 1 week. And then the thing about EMDR, 10 hours of consultation are required. So there's still 10 hours for each person I have to talk to. And so I get paid for that as well. So there's a revenue stream in the training, and then there's also like 10-week kind of follow-up. So it keeps me busy, and so I sort of divide my week between half practice, half training.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I was curious how it's made a difference for you personally and professionally, adding this additional revenue stream and additional service. So you're not just providing therapy all the time. You have more diversification there. How has it made an impact for you?
Well, I get to stay home on Mondays and just do calls. Like you guys are, I don't know if you're at home, but you're not in an office, waiting for patients. So, and then also sometimes when I am seeing patients during the day, at the end of the day, I'll have a couple calls. So I get to talk to therapists. So it's, it just keeps you fresh, breaks up my day. The things that I experience with my clients, sometimes they're relevant in the consultations, right? In that day or the next week. And also I learn from my trainees' experiences. So they're teaching me as well, they come up with a problem like, I've never encountered that. Come let me think about it and what kind of problem solve. So it just keeps me, I think, engaged and creative, and I'm not, it's just kind of exciting. I just look forward to every day.
Keeps that passion alive, right?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. And also because I do have this passion for Jung, and EMDR processing is not a thinking thing. It's a mindful kind of different approach where people will access information that, Jungians would jump on, and sometimes they take months to hear, and it happens in minutes here with EMDR. So the EMDR thing, all these things that I love and I'm passionate about, they just, I get to go to work and experience those.
And that's one thing I really enjoyed about your work and your training. And I remember, I don't know if it was after our supervision course or before, you had gifted us your book. And I hadn't read it yet, but then when I went through the EMDR, it was crazy reading your book. Like, one, I got to know you on a different level, and you talked about like your client stories and stuff like that. But two, like, because when you do EMDR training, you do EMDR on yourself, you practice. And so I was going through the different phases that you were talking about, and it was really helpful to read your book. And I read it like that. So that was cool. And it's called Unburdening Souls at the Speed of Thought.
Right.
Yes. By Andrew Dobo. So we'll also put that in the show notes for you guys too, in case you want to grab that book. It was just cool to read the stories, and I just felt like I got to know you even on a different level. I love the last story that you tell about the woman in the garbage and the banana peel. But I won't share that. You have to read it. So Andy, for folks, your success has been really awesome, going from 0 trainings for meeting us to 12 to 18, maybe in a year or so, depending, 1 to 2 a month. That's just really awesome. So anyone who's kind of on the fence about thinking about whether it's taking our marketing course or getting coaching or mentoring, what would you want to share with them?
Well, I think that if I had access to you guys when I was starting my private practice, I'd be a fool not to take your advice, because it takes a lot longer. Things happen. Look, my training in October was just a year old. To start a private practice and not know much about marketing, and so you get you start with one client. And maybe after 6 months or a year, maybe you'll have 8 or something. So it takes a long time. So if you have somebody that can just save you all that time, talk to people that'll tell you how to market your practice, so people, and how exactly you do that. Now with social media, you can do those things, and even simple things. Like when I became an approved consultant, you need somebody to supervise, somebody who's supervising somebody else. And those people were hard to find. Now, if I want to do an approved consultant group, I just put it on one of those Facebook lists, and in the day I get 3 people. So, you have access at your fingertips, but, you have to know how to use the platforms. Mm-hmm. And I knew nothing about it. So nice. I don't know. I think if you're starting my practice, you would be the first people I would call.
Well,
you have so much free stuff too, your podcast and things,
Yeah.
So, and I think that the individual, the coaching thing that I did with you was I'm sure I'm still using those skills that we talked about and that you guys shared. We kind of worked through.
Well, we so appreciate you being here with us. And, if you are thinking about doing EMDR training, I took Andy's. I really enjoyed it. He's really personable, and he makes it a lot of fun. He shares his stories. It's super cool, casual, but you do get down to business. And I know that you actually had an offer for our audience who is listening to this podcast. What is that, Andy?
Yeah, if they wanted to take my training, they would get $100 off the training. And if there's a code, it's EMDR 100. So they can register, and there's a part in the registration where if you have a discount code that you can use EMDR 100, and you get $100 off the training.
Yep. And the website for that is EMDR Educators of FL, as in Florida.com. But we'll go ahead and put that on the show notes page with the coupon code too, so you guys can access that if you are interested. Andy, thanks again so much for being with us and sharing your story and your journey. I'm sure that you've inspired some folks today, and we really appreciate that. Startup Nation, definitely join us next time. So I think in another podcast, we had announced that Allison was going to be with us. Unfortunately, right before, as we decided to record this, she came down with a stomach bug, so she won't be joining us on this podcast as we talk about the good, the bad, and the ugly of launching. But our friend Laura Long will definitely be joining us. So Kate, myself, and Laura will talk about the craziness of launching a course, whatever that might be. So join us next week for that.
And let's take a moment for our Startup Nation superhero shout out for today's episode. And this comes from Julie. Julie says, Kate and Katie are such a wealth of knowledge. I love their podcast. Thank you so much, Julie. We really appreciate your feedback and are glad to hear that you're loving the podcast. We hope that you guys are loving it too. And if you are, please subscribe, rate, and review the show. Share with your friends, your colleagues. And we love to be able to hear feedback from you guys, because that really is what keeps us on point with the content that we are producing, making sure that we're really meeting your needs. And if there's a topic that you guys haven't heard yet, we are happy to create that for you guys. And we look forward to continuing to inspire you from startup to mastery. Have a great week, everybody.
And everything we talked about today, we mentioned a lot of resources, so we'll go ahead and put that in the show notes page for your guys' easy, simple access. So as always, thanks for allowing us to inspire you from startup to mastery. Take care, everybody.
Thanks for joining us on The Private Practice Startup. Visit theprivatepracticestartup.com for awesome resources, free trainings, attorney-approved private practice paperwork, and so much more.